us instead of the police?" Peggy leaned on the doorframe. She saw Chief Turner pull up in front of the store, go inside for 5 minutes, then rush out and speed off. Walter Turner, chief of police and my future father-in-law, didn't rush for any reason. Ava might be onto something if she was telling the truth, and that was a big if. I got up and came around my desk. Did she say anything else? Nope. Peggy's telephone rang again and she went to answer it. I'd have to send someone to cover the story. I didn't have to go far to reach the newsroom. 1 step, to be exact. It was right outside my office. Besides Peggy's desk, there were 5 others in varying degrees of neatness. Every desk at the Herald had a typewriter, but the only one being used at the moment was Ken Stafford's. He was our sports writer and happened to be Peggy's fiancé. The only other reporter in the room was Moe Bauer, who was drumming a beat on his desk with his pencil. "Moe," I said, "I have something for you." He stopped tapping. "Sure thing, Dull." "Dull?" I gave him a stern look. Moe considered himself a ladies' man, and he acted the part. Peggy thought he looked like Clark Gable, but I didn't see it. He looked more like Robert Taylor to me. Either way, he was certainly handsome, and unfortunately, he knew it. "I mean, boss. Sure thing, boss." I told him about the call from Ava Dempsey. "You do know she's the town gossip, don't you?" he said. "That's beside the point. We have to follow up, talk to Ava and Sam Markowicz. In the meantime, I'll give Chief Turner a call and see what I can find out." Moe opened his desk drawer and pulled out a tablet and his fedora. "I need to talk to old man Markowicz about something anyway." He dropped the hat onto his head and gave the brim a tug. "I'll be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail." I watched him leave. Moe was what Pop called a go-getter, despite his sometimes glib attitude. He'd been with us for about a year and made no secret of the fact that he wanted to be an investigative crime reporter. Fortunately, or unfortunately, in Moe's case, there wasn't all that much serious crime in Progress, Pennsylvania, so most of his investigations didn't go anywhere. His major fault was that he sometimes disappeared for hours at a time, occasionally as long as a full day when he was following what he said was a hot tip. Last week, I told him I needed to be kept apprised of his whereabouts. Hopefully, he'd heed the warning. Back in my office, I dialed the police station, but the chief hadn't returned. When Moe came back, I'd have him chase the chief down for a statement. In the meantime, I still had my weekly household hints column to write. Alas, my job as the home, garden, and fashion reporter hadn't ended when Pop promoted me. I alternated my column topics each Wednesday, so I usually wrote them on Monday. The first week of the month was food and recipes, the third was usually about keeping house, and the fourth was clothing and fashions. This was the second week of May, which meant it was time to write the gardening article. Shortly after we entered the war, the Agriculture Department had begun promoting victory gardens, like the ones most Americans had in the previous war. The mayor had even set aside a plot of land in the park for a community garden. The groundbreaking for that was coming up soon. In my February column, I'd encouraged readers to plan their gardens and start seeds indoors if possible. The March column was about vegetables that could be planted in colder weather like peas and lettuce. Many farmers planted peas around St. Patrick's Day. April had been about the best vegetables to grow in our climate. I slipped a sheet of paper into the typewriter. With the weather warming up, a couple of scorchers were predicted for this week. It was time to begin planting in earnest. I had already interviewed Dan Petrie, who owned a gardening shop and feed store just outside of town. He had given me tips earlier on the best ways to prepare a garden. This month I would use his advice on planting seedlings and how to make sure they would grow. I also pulled some things from the information the Agricultural Secretary had released and included a few quotes from President Roosevelt's speeches on how important it was for the whole country to participate in the war effort. My stomach growled as I read through the finished article. I looked up at the clock. It was noon. Perfect timing. The lunch counter at Woolworth's wasn't very busy. It never was on Mondays. I sat and ate my egg salad sandwich in relative silence. I'd just